Marcus Rodriguez had calluses on his hands that told 1,000 stories of midnight shifts and overtime hours, each one earned pushing a mop through the gleaming corridors of Titan Industries' corporate headquarters. At 34, he moved through those halls like a ghost, invisible to the executives in their tailored suits, unseen by the assistants clicking past in designer heels. But Marcus saw everything. And tonight, as he quietly emptied trash bins on the 42nd floor, he was about to see something that would change everything. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Marcus methodically worked his way through the executive wing, his 8-year-old daughter Sophia's school photo tucked safely in his shirt pocket, a reminder of why he did this job, why he smiled through the exhaustion, why he never complained when others looked right through him as if he didn't exist. "Excuse me," a sharp voice cut through the silence. Marcus looked up to see Richard Blackstone, Titan Industries CEO, standing in his office doorway with his arms crossed. Even at 11 p.m., Blackstone's silver hair was perfectly styled, his navy suit unwrinkled despite the long day. "You're making too much noise. Some of us are still working." Marcus felt his cheeks burn with embarrassment. "Sorry, sir, I'll be quieter." He started to wheel his cart away, but Blackstone wasn't finished. "Actually, wait." The CEO stepped closer, his voice rising. "This is exactly the problem with this company. We're paying good money for cleaning services, and what do we get? Disruption during important work." Other executives began emerging from their offices, drawn by Blackstone's voice. "Look at these, a janitor who can't even do his job without disturbing the people who actually matter." Marcus stood frozen, his hands gripping the mop handle. Around them, a small crowd had gathered of vice presidents, directors, managers, all watching as their CEO publicly dressed down the night janitor. Someone snickered, another pulled out their phone. "Sir, I apologize," Marcus said quietly, his dignity holding by a thread. "I'll come back later." "No, you won't come back later," Blackstone snapped. "You'll learn to do your job properly the first time. This is a Fortune 500 company, not some community center where we coddle people who can't handle basic responsibilities." The watching executives laughed, and Marcus felt something inside him crumble. But as humiliated as he was, Marcus noticed something else. Behind Blackstone, on his desk, a computer screen glowed with what looked like financial reports. Even from his distance, Marcus could see spreadsheets, charts, numbers. His mind was sharp despite what others assumed about janitors. He began processing what he was seeing. "Clean this floor again," Blackstone commanded. "And this time, try to remember that some of us went to Harvard Business School, not community college." The crowd dispersed, leaving Marcus alone with his shame and his mop. That night, Marcus went home to his small apartment where Sophia was sleeping, her homework neatly stacked on the kitchen table. He sat beside her bed, watching her peaceful face in the glow of her nightlight, and made a decision. Tomorrow, he would pay closer attention to those screens, those reports, those conversations that people had around him as if he were furniture. Marcus had learned early in life that being invisible had its advantages. Growing up in East LA, he'd survived by noticing things others missed: which streets to avoid, which teachers to trust, which opportunities to grab. After Sophia's mother died in a car accident 3 years ago, those skills had kept them afloat. His day job as a maintenance worker at Sophia's school barely covered rent, but the night shift at Titan Industries paid well enough to keep his daughter in a good district, with clean clothes and hot meals. People assumed Marcus was uneducated because he pushed a mop, but they didn't know about the accounting degree he'd earned through night school before Sophia was born. They didn't know he'd once dreamed of wearing those same expensive suits, of having his own corner office. Life had other plans, but it hadn't dulled his mind. Over the following weeks, Marcus began noticing patterns. Late-night meetings in conference rooms he cleaned. Financial documents left carelessly on desks. Conversations that stopped when executives noticed him, then resumed as if he weren't there. Slowly, a picture began forming, one that made his stomach turn. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday night in November. Marcus was cleaning Blackstone's office when he discovered a folder marked Project Lighthouse left open on the desk. The documents inside revealed a web of inflated contracts, dummy vendors, and funds being siphoned from employee pension accounts into offshore accounts controlled by Blackstone and 3 other executives. $40 million stolen from the retirement funds of Titan's 8,000 employees. Marcus photographed everything with his phone, his hands shaking as he realized the magnitude of what he discovered. These weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. This was money that belonged to cafeteria workers, security guards, administrative assistants, people with families, people saving for their children's college funds, people who trusted their employer to secure their futures, but who would listen to a janitor making accusations against a CEO. Marcus knew the answer: nobody. He needed proof that couldn't be dismissed or covered up. He needed a way to expose the truth that would protect him and Sophia from retaliation. The solution came from an unexpected source. Sophia was struggling with a math project about statistical analysis, and as Marcus helped her, an idea formed. Over the next 3 weeks, he meticulously documented every piece of evidence, cross-referenced financial records he photographed during his cleaning rounds, and built an ironclad case using the analytical skills he'd learned in his accounting program. But Marcus needed an ally, someone with credibility who could present his findings. He remembered Janet Chen, an investigative reporter for the city's largest newspaper, whose business card he'd found in a trash bin months earlier. On her card, she'd written, "The truth matters. Call me with real stories." The meeting was arranged for a Sunday afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. Janet, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, listened skeptically as Marcus laid out his evidence, but as she reviewed his documentation of photographs, financial analysis, detailed timeliness, her expression changed. "This is incredibly thorough work," she said, looking up at Marcus with new respect. "How did you put all this together?" Marcus smiled sadly. "People think if you clean toilets for a living, you must not have a brain. But I see everything, and I remember everything. These executives have been stealing from their own employees for 2 years." Janet spent the next week verifying Marcus's findings with her own sources. The story broke on a Wednesday morning with the headline, "Titan Industries executives allegedly embezzle $40 million from employee pensions." The article, while protecting Marcus's identity as the source, laid out the entire scheme in devastating detail. By noon, federal investigators had raided Titan's headquarters. By evening, Richard Blackstone was in handcuffs, led from the building in front of news cameras while employees who trusted him with their futures watched from the sidewalk. The aftermath was swift. Blackstone and his co-conspirators faced federal charges. The stolen money was recovered and returned to employee pension accounts. Titan's board of directors, scrambling to restore the company's reputation, announced a complete leadership overhaul and new transparency measures. But the most surprising development came 2 weeks later. Marcus was called into a meeting with Titan's interim CEO, Patricia Williams, a respected industry veteran brought in to clean up the mess. He entered her embassy, the same one where Blackstone had humiliated him, expecting to be fired or at least questioned about his role in the investigation. Instead, Williams stood and extended her hand. "Mr. Rodriguez, I wanted to personally thank you for your courage in exposing this corruption. Your actions saved thousands of families from financial ruin." Marcus shook her hand, still uncertain why he'd been summoned. Williams gestured for him to sit. "I've reviewed your background," she continued. "You have an accounting degree and clearly possess analytical skills that we desperately need. I'd like to offer you a position as our Director of Internal Audit, reporting directly to me. Your job would be to ensure nothing like this ever happens again." Marcus stared at her, hardly believing what he was hearing. "But I'm just a janitor." "No, Mr. Rodriguez, you're a man of integrity who sees what others miss and has the courage to act on it. Those are exactly the qualities we need in leadership." She slid a folder across the desk. "The salary is $85,000 to start, with full benefits and a pension plan that I personally guarantee will be properly managed." That evening, Marcus picked up Sophia from her after-school program, his heart bursting with news he could barely contain. As they walked home, Sophia noticed his unusual silence. "Daddy, are you okay?" she asked, looking up at him with concerned 8-year-old eyes. Marcus knelt down to her level, right there on the sidewalk, and pulled her into a hug. "Sophia, Mija, Everything is more than okay. Daddy got a new job today. A really good job. Does this mean you won't have to work at night anymore? That's exactly what it means. Marcus felt tears in his eyes as he realized he would finally be home for dinner, for homework help, for bedtime stories. And you know what else? We can move to a bigger apartment, one with your own room and a yard where you can play. Sophia's face lit up with pure joy, and in that moment, Marcus understood that sometimes the most powerful victories come not from climbing ladders or chasing dreams, but from simply doing the right thing when no one is watching. 6 months later, Marcus was settling into his corner office, not as large as Blackstone's had been, but with a view of the city and, more importantly, Sophia's school photo prominently displayed on his desk. The transformation hadn't been easy. Some employees were skeptical of the former janitor now auditing their departments, but Marcus's combination of humility, keen observation skills, and genuine care for his colleagues gradually won them over. The real measure of his success came during his first company-wide presentation, where he outlined new financial transparency measures. As he looked out at the audience, executives, managers, and yes, custodial staff, Marcus realized that being truly seen wasn't about the title on your door or the suit you wore. It was about the courage to stand up for what's right, even when the world seems determined to overlook you. In the end, Richard Blackstone had been wrong about many things, but perhaps most wrong about this. Marcus Rodriguez had never needed Harvard Business School to understand what really mattered. Sometimes the most important lessons come from midnight shifts and morning goodbyes, from calloused hands and a daughter's trusting smile, from knowing that dignity isn't something others can give you or take away. It's something you carry within yourself, invisible to some, but unshakable nonetheless.